see it work? I think it's ESPN. Yes, thank you.
All
Let's see
right.
the clock still.
Okay.
I'm more worried about the time.
Okay. All right, we get back into conference play and playing against a very talented Georgia team. I was just watching some of their games, and they're very, very talented with size, athletic ability. Guys could really shoot the basketball. They scored 98 points, I think, on Texas, a common opponent that we played. And before that, they played at LSU and played them really well. So Tom Crean is coming in there, and I think he's kind of shot an injection of enthusiasm, and they're playing a different way they have in the past. So it's going to be should be a great ball game, great contest. I feel like our defense is really starting to really pick it up. I think in the last few games you can just see, the game against Missouri. I think we held them to 1 point in the last 4.5 minutes, and then of course Texas Tech, tough loss. Just didn't execute going down the stretch, but they don't score a field goal for the last 7 minutes. So that just tells me our guys are starting to really become that unit that you got to be on defense, and I think that's given us an opportunity to win games, especially on the road. But I think this team is getting better. I said at the beginning of January they'll be different at the end of January, and so going into February you want to continue to hopefully put it all together offensively and defensively, and play some of our better basketball. Again, Georgia, very talented basketball team.
Mike, I guess you and Tom Crean go back to the UAB Marquette days. What do you remember about those games, and kind of how well do you know him? Just what do you think of him?
I've known him when he was an assistant, obviously, at Michigan State, and then, of course, he was at Marquette and I was at UAB. We've had some great ball games. It's one thing about his team, they're going to get up and down the floor. They're going to play exciting brand of basketball. They're going to play a motion offense, play multiple guys. So it's not one of those teams that's going to hold the basketball. And they're going to force your hand. So that's why I said defensively we've got to be good. We got to make shots against a team that has size and very, very talented. But he's a good coach. He's won wherever he's been, Indiana, Marquette. And of course, this is his first year in our league. So, but it's a team that's going to come at you, and you got to beat them. You can't sit back and play on your heels. And so I think we got to force tempo.
Coach, after you cut the Texas Tech lead down to 2, you took the timeout. Can you just take us through what went through that timeout and what you saw afterwards?
You talking about the 3-2 or right at the end there? Or? At the end, well, before that, I thought we just had some bad execution defensively. We've been so good defensively. I thought we were, it's something about when you play a team on the road is that lead. They had a 12-point lead and they got down to 2, and we actually had a chance to cut it to 1 with Keyshawn at the free throw line, and that pressure shifts, and we were right there within striking distance. But we had over 20 seconds. We called the timeout. We wanted to get a quick score. And we did. We had Dan on the post. We just missed him. And then, of course, it just the execution didn't take place. And then I think it went to Isaiah's hand, and then I think Keyshawn kind of bobbled it. So that's that was out. In terms of we didn't execute going down the stretch. We wanted a quick get to the basket because most times teams they're not going to foul you. You attack the basket. And that was. The strategy was to attack the basket and get something, and we just came up a little short. But couldn't fault the effort. I thought the effort and for the most part the execution was good. I just thought we had some bad fouls when we were playing really, really good defense against a really good Texas Tech team. And it's one of those learning curves. I mean, it's as hard as it is, it's a process you have to go through because a lot of these guys, in those situations. They hadn't been in those situations, especially on that stage, in an environment like that. But they gave themselves a chance to win.
When you play in so many close games, what's the key to getting over that hump? And is that something that young players especially, have to learn how to do, or is that something that can just kind of happen?
Well, I think you got to learn because guys got to make plays. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, if you think about the games that we had that were close, even last year, we had guys that could make plays. Daryl Macon, whether it be Jalen Barford, Anton Beard, even a guy like Dustin Thomas. If you think about the guys that made the plays, and I thought they put Daniel in position to make some plays, a la Tennessee. He gets the dunk, he gets the three-point play, and it's just learning how to. You got to learn how to compete, and you got to learn how to win. I think that to me is the toughest lesson. And of course, between our league and the teams that we're playing, there's a thin line. There's a thin line between winning and losing. And you go in that game in Texas Tech, and we can go through all of them. You look at the free throw line. There's ample opportunities there. And even with the ball going down the stretch with 20 seconds to go, the learning curve is there's a lot of possessions in the game, and we weren't just going to settle for a three unless they gave it to us. But you got to make plays. That's the bottom line. Players have got to make plays. I can X and O, you can X and O as much as you want to, but you got to be able to make plays. And so the learning curve is, we've been in enough of them, and so I believe it's going to pay off as we go into the second third of conference play. I really believe that.
You mentioned on post-game that Isaiah Joe was sick the other day. Just kind of how healthy is he now?
Yeah, he got that bug going around, and he was playing all on heart out there, and he had really been playing really well. And but I thought defensively he gave us everything he had, but he was coming out of the game quite a bit off and on. And even as we talk about today, I'm gonna have to kind of watch him in practice and see what he can and can't do. This time of year you want the energy for the games, and if you don't have it, if you're gonna expend it in practice, and like I say, he's just been under the weather a little bit.
Hey, Mike, I'm not saying Claxton's as good as Daniel, but, at times I've seen him play, he looks really similar athletically. He's leading the league in block shots. He's averaging about the same amount of rebounds. So what do you think of Claxton athletically, and maybe him and Daniel together?
I think he's a very talented individual. I mean, last year I was watching our double overtime game with him last year. He had some big plays for him in that game. I think he's a little bit probably more skilled from the standpoint of he's playing the point, bringing the ball up the floor for them. He can step out and shoot threes, but he's a talent. He's one of those guys that was, I think it's as a freshman, sophomore, between his freshman and sophomore year, he grew like 8 inches. So it's one of those stories almost like when you think about Anthony Davis, and I'm not saying in that category, but I'm just saying you think about a guy that grew, 8 inches. Can you imagine that? I mean, his dad was like a 6'11", 6'10", 6'11" player there that played at Georgia. And so that's why you see the skill set. But it's a very, very talented kid.
Mike, I guess just over the last couple of games, what has triggered, the uptick in the pressure and the deflections and the turnovers that you guys forced?
I think guys are starting to get it. I think that's what I'm saying. We're connected. I think the biggest take is our guys are talking on defense. I mean, when you're playing the style of basketball we're playing, it just don't happen overnight. It takes time. But once you get it, it's a thing of beauty, and I think that's what we're starting to see. Guys starting to talk. They're figuring things out. We're building a wall right there at the basket there. We're adjusting as the game goes on. As team makes shots, in the second half we came out, we was in the matchup zone, and they started making shots. And then I thought our guys got into our man-to-man. Our pressure really picked up and sped them up again. So I think that's the thing. Our guys are learning all about the little nuances of playing up-tempo basketball and pressure defense.
Mike, you talked about the fine line in the SEC. I mean, Georgia's 1-5 in the SEC, but they just took it to Texas pretty good. I mean, do you think their record's kind of deceptive?
Well, they played some. I mean, our league is really good, Bob. That's the thing about it. Our league is really good. They had a good non-conference schedule. Again, those are the common opponents we played. They beat Texas. We played Georgia Tech. They beat them as well. So in our league play, they just play LSU. It's a new team. I mean, it's a new coaching philosophy. So they're starting to put it together. And most teams, this is the time of the year they start putting things together offensively and defensively. And defensively, I think, again, we're putting it together. And now I'm anxious to see us really start clicking on the offensive side of it too.
So after the game the other day, he feels good. You guys, can have a good run in you. It's just a matter of doing it. Do you still feel good about this team?
Without a doubt. I've been more encouraged, I think, from the last couple of games because of what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing it in practice now. I'm seeing it in game. And I think as we continue to get more guys coming off that bench, giving us some really, really positive minutes. We saw Chaney again have an impact on that game in the last game. Keyshawn. From a defensive standpoint, and I thought it gave Daniel an opportunity to rest, even though he got in fouls He had foul problems early on. The guys that came out off the bench, they were able to get us a 3-point lead. And I thought Daniel was able to play probably one of his stronger halves against a really good basketball team, a defensive-minded Texas Tech team. Their defense was aimed at not letting him do what he wanted to do. But I thought he played strong. I thought he had a nice base. He wasn't on the floor all the time. He was actually attacking the basket. And I think that's, to me, as the depth is starting to pick up for our basketball team.
Anything else, you coach?
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you.